Hey, what's up, Seekers? Welcome back. I have a birthday coming up, so I wanted to chat to you a little about birthdays and what they mean in Judaism and from perspective of Jewish mysticism and from the particular lineage of Jewish mysticism that I belong to. It's actually interesting because birthdays are not typically celebrated in Judaism and in Jewish history. The very few references to birthdays that we have in the biblical texts are not the most savory characters whose birthdays are being celebrated. They're usually people that have quite inflated, megalomaniacal, narcissistic egos, people like Pharaoh and Nebuchadnezzar, Ahasuerus, some of the villains of Jewish history, to put it simply. So the idea of celebrating a birthday in Judaism has not been one which has had much pride of place or place at all in the tradition. That was until 1988. What happened in 1988 was that a radical mystic, my Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, on the month of the anniversary of the passing of his wife, the Rebbitzin, in commemoration of her birthday, which is on the 25th of the Hebrew month of Adar, just 2 days after my birthday, the Rebbe, in commemoration and celebration of his wife and the life that she lived, established a somewhat radical new tradition, which had some antecedents, but not really strong antecedents, that every single child and adult should celebrate their birthdays. On March 14th, 1998, the Rebbe launched this campaign, and it may not seem like a crazy thing living in a modern Western world where people typically celebrate birthdays, but within a traditional conservative society where the individual is encouraged to not stick out so much, to try and be humble, to try and melt away into the collective community and mission, to highlight the individual and to ask them to request and require of them to celebrate their birthday was quite a radical innovation, to say the very least. I think that there are generally two ways that we approach birthdays these days. Either we, and I've been guilty of this, fall into a birthday depression where we start getting melancholic about the time that's passing and what we haven't been able to achieve and our aspirations that we're not living up to. And the other way, and maybe coupled with that, is just to be frivolous and just to, get drunk and party up, either just out of sheer celebration or as a depressive desire to forget about how depressing the passage of time is. And my leader, my teacher, the Rebbe, took neither of these approaches. The birthday for him was neither a time for sheer frivolous debauchery, nor was it a time for depression and getting stuck in the sadness of one's own mortality that is creeping ever closer to its end. The Rebbe did something which was a third approach, which is highly optimistic and obligating. The Rebbe saw the birthday as a time for us to sit and introspect about the year that was and about the year that will be, and to think of ways that we can be the best person that we would like to be, that we can be in this world going forward. And I wanted to share some key select teachings that my Rebbe gave over the course of his leadership about the birthday. And I hope that it might be applicable for you in your own life. And I hope you'll join with me in my own meditations on my upcoming 30th birthday. The first idea is in connection to this notion that we began to speak about, how the Jewish birthday was never really celebrated in Jewish history. The day that we typically commemorate in a person's life in Jewish history, the day that we often have recorded for posterity, is the day of a person's passing, what's known in Yiddish as the Yahrzeit, the time of year in which the individual departed from this world, the person's passing. And it makes a lot of sense from a traditional perspective to celebrate someone's passing rather than their birthday. Because once someone's passed away, the accounts are closed, and the deeds that they've done can be tallied and calculated, and we can ask ourselves, did this person live a life worth celebrating or not? And we can choose, with the information of the person's lived life, whether we should be celebrating them or not. And accordingly, we celebrate the lives of the righteous, and we don't celebrate the lives of the wicked. Celebrating a birthday, however, is a very radical statement. What it's saying is, we don't yet know how your life will pan out. We don't yet know what the final account is, but we believe and trust that it will be one worth celebrating. We believe that your life is worth celebrating. And in that belief, we join God, who believes in us and gives us life every morning. The Jewish prayer that we say upon waking Moda'ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shechazarta bi nishmati b'chemla rabba emunatecha. Great is the faithfulness of God who gives us life every morning, believing that we'll use that life and that energy and that opportunity to do good and to do kindness. And we imitate God in celebrating the birthday of the individual by saying we believe in you, that you will be someone worth celebrating, that you are someone worth celebrating. So that's the first idea, the celebration of the individual's birthday as a radical display and affirmation of the celebratableness of your life, if that's a word. The next idea which my Rebbe gave over, is the idea that the birthday of the individual, literally the day that they're born, is both a commemoration of the historical day which they were born, but is also a realization that today is a day when you are reborn. We're so often held back by the conceptualizations of who we are, of who we were, the narrative that we tell ourselves, that we can't be who we'd like to be because of who we've been in the past. The birthday allows us to say, hey, that doesn't have to be me anymore. I can stop and be reborn, be renewed, be refreshed, to be a new creation on this new day. And this really happens every day. Every day that we wake up, we wash our hands in the morning according to Jewish practice, because we are refreshed, we're new creatures, and we wash our hands clean to re-identify as we choose in that new day. The birthday is an extra special time for this. It's that moment in time where we look back and we cycle to the very real moment where we were reborn and recreated, and we can choose to create ourselves anew. We can choose to leave the limited conceptions of the identity and the ego that we had before, which limited us from being part of something greater, that got us stuck in our own self-concerns and anxieties and guilt and worries about our reputation, and we can choose to be reborn into a larger, global, cosmic, divine identity. That's possible every day, and particularly on one's birthday. To go from thinking about just our own good to the good of the collective, to the good of the whole, to the whole of humanity, the whole of God. And we can come to the realization on that day that we are reborn that Ani lo nivrisi ela l'shamish eskeni. We're only here to be of service. We're not here to fluff up our status and make money and all the things that society tells us that we're here for. We're here to be of service. We're here to love. And that is the rebirth that we can experience radically on our birthday. That's teaching number 2. Number 3 is the very notion central to the Rebbe's teachings, my Rebbe's teachings, about the manifestation of divinity in this world, what he often termed, based on a midrash, an earlier Jewish source, the notion of God, the divine dwelling in this world, dira b'tachtonim, the dwelling in the lower world. When we take that which is considered lowly, the mundane, the ordinary, like a party, a celebration, and we elevate that to a higher purpose, to a chance to reorient ourselves towards the divine, towards the love of the other, we've now taken something which was otherwise just mundane, material, ordinary, and we've now created something sacred and divine out of that. That transformation, taking what was just a regular birthday party into an opportunity for introspection, reflection, deification, is the very purpose of creation from the perspective of Chabad's mystical theology. And it is on that day of the birthday, as the Rebbe would often repeat from the Talmud, that one's mazal, one's fortune, one's luck, literally one's overflow from the divine, one's energy is heightened, is strengthened. This idea taps back into a bit of an older astrological understanding of cosmology, which makes its way into Hasidic mysticism through Kabbalah. The idea, in simple, is that the divine overflow flows through the spheres of creation until it reaches our world. And one of the last stops along the way is through the stars. And the stars, the constellations, have a specific configuration in every moment. And the moment that you're born is the moment that the divine was shining through that particular constellation. And therefore, when your birthday comes around again next year, the stars are literally realigned for that flow to come back and to be strengthened. And it's an opportunity to connect back into that flow through that star alignment. I think it's important to say that in Judaism, and certainly in Jewish mysticism, we don't worship the stars. It's an opportunity to connect with the source of our own flow coming through the agency of the stars, if that's a meaningful conception for you. Ultimately, we know from the Talmud as well, a funny line the Talmud says, Ein mazal Yisrael, the Jew has no luck, has no mazal. When you say mazal tov, you're wishing good luck. But nizila, the Jew has no overflow. The Jew has no connection with the stars. And which is read Chasidically to mean not that ein mazal Yisrael, that the Jew has no luck, but ayin, that nothingness itself. The emptiness of God is the very destiny, the very lot, the very portion of the Jew. And in the Rebbe's talks, the Rebbe would often connect this with the idea of ayin ha'atzmi, the essential nothingness, which in that place perhaps the difference between Jew and non-Jew is also transcended. And in that place, we can come to identify with the deep inner stillness inside of us that transcends even the majesty and agency of the stars themselves. And you can shine as a star just from your inherent emptiness, your inherent divine emptiness. Yeah, I'll let you sit with that idea. Over the course of the Rebbe's leadership, he gave some tips and advice on how best to go ahead celebrating one's birthday. And I'm going to lay these up, divide them into 10 Jewish birthday customs as they have been divided and categorized before me. The first one, as we've been mentioning, is to conduct what's known as a cheshbon hanefesh, literally a reckoning and accounting of one's soul, a moment of sincere introspection, where we take the time and space to contemplate how we were the past year in our thought, speech, and action, and we think about the areas in our lives that we'd like to improve and be better in the coming year, and also to appreciate where we were really good up until this moment in our lives. So that's the first one, cheshbon hanefesh, of making a moment of introspection for reckoning on the year that was and a looking forward to the year that's to come. Continuing from that is the second custom, which is known as hachlata, to make a resolution, a commitment for the year to come. We commit ourselves to being better, but not just in a vague commitment. We try to think of specific, actionable, bite-sized commitments that we can make. And typically we divide them into 3 categories: Torah, Avodah, and Gemilut Chasadim. Torah study, the accumulation of wisdom, the embodiment of divine wisdom in our lives, in our bodies, in our minds. Avodah, service, being of service to God, being of service to one another. Avodah also carries the connotation of prayer, which we'll touch on in a second. And thirdly, Gemilut Chasadim, how are we going to increase in practical acts of kindness, of service, of love to our neighbor? So that is number 2, making a hachlata, making a good resolution for the coming year in actionable, bite-sized ways that we can improve for the coming year. And part of that is to share our hachlata, to share our resolution with close friends and family so that they can hold us accountable to being the best person that we would like to be in the coming year. I might share with you my own resolution for the coming year. Let's see. Number 3 is that on one's birthday, every single day we try to give charity, we try to give tzedakah. On one's birthday, we try to give a little extra charity, a little extra tzedakah to increase in an act of goodness. Typically, we give it before we pray to prepare ourselves for prayer, both in the morning and the evening. That is number 3, to give extra charity on one's birthday. Number 4 is prayer. We try and be praying all the time and try to pray formally at least 3 times a day, depending on how people do it. But on our birthdays, we try and give a bit of extra time, depth, concentration, presence in our prayer, and that is number 4. Number 5 is to say some extra psalms, some extra Tehillim, the book of Psalms, which is a very near and dear and precious book of Jewish song, prayer, hope, liturgy, worship, cherished by many, many religions in the world. We tried to say some extra Tehillim for our birthday, some extra psalms for our birthday, on our birthday. And in addition to that, there is a custom of saying one psalm every day corresponding to the year of one's life, which is the chapter which is 1 year past their year. So if you're 0 years old, your parents can say chapter 1 for you. When you're 5 years old, you can say chapter 6, and so on and so forth. On our birthday itself, we study the new chapter for our year plus 1. So for me, this coming year, that will be chapter 31 of the book of Psalms. Lamnatzeach Mizmer LeDavid, B'cha Hashem Chasisi Alevush Le'olam, a psalm, a song for the conductor to David. I take refuge in you, O God. Let my shame not carry on forever, etc., etc. That is the beginning of my psalm for my 30th birthday, which I, God willing, will study on my birthday and try to say every day for the coming year. Number 6 is something as well that we do every day, but we do extra on our birthday, which is to learn some Torah. Torah is the wisdom, the teachings of Judaism, the divine wisdom that we have as a gift that we try and study every day and share with one another. Every tradition has their own form of Torah, and whatever your tradition is, to engage with your sacred text, your sacred tradition, your sacred wisdom, to try and become a more caring, thoughtful, kind, and present person through those texts. The paths of Torah are paths of pleasantness, of ease, of sweetness. And all of her avenues are those of peace, of wholeness, of wholesomeness. So on our birthdays, we try and learn some extra Torah. Number 7 is to celebrate our birthdays by having a Chasidische Verbringen, by having a party in which we gather with real, true, close friends, fellow seekers, fellow people that are looking for meaning, for depth, for kindness, for divinity in their lives. And we take that opportunity to share our resolutions with one another, to strengthen each other in our service, in our worship of God and our fellow man. We wish each other a good life. We wish each other to be good Chasidim, to be good seekers, seeking after the truth and goodness of being. Verbringen is a topic which needs its own elaboration or maybe demonstration of what a Chasidische Verbringen is. But it's a time for honesty. It's a mix of group therapy and peer support and celebration and encouragement, a time for transparency and honesty with our dearest and closest friends, a time for song, a time to drink together, a time to celebrate together, a time to be with one another in happiness, in joy, in introspection, in sadness, so that's okay too. A time to celebrate who we are, the year that was, and the year to come. Number 8 is that at this Verbringen, at the Hasidic party that we make for our birthdays, we give over some Torah, but specifically we give over Chassidus. We give over the inner mystical teachings of Torah, the mystical philosophy that is at the heart of our teachings. I have here a Chassidic discourse that I studied previously for my birthday a different year, and I'm thinking of revisiting it again for this year. It's a discourse, a mimer as it's known, which is relevant to the upcoming Jewish festival of Passover. Heilach Ma'anyo. Heilach Ma'anyo. This is the bread of affliction. Maybe I'll learn this again this year and share it with you guys here on the channel. How's that? Let me know if you're interested. It'll be different from what we usually do on the channel, although this is different too. It's okay. It's good to do different things, to rethink and reinvent ourselves every day, every year. Number 9, we haven't lost count here, is to eat a new fruit of the season that one hasn't eaten yet, which allows one the opportunity to make a very special blessing in Judaism, which is the blessing of Shehechianu. We say, Baruch Atah Hashem, blessed are you, God, Elokeinu melech haolam, Master, Majesty of the universe, Shehechianu, who has given us life, V'kiyimanu, and kept us in existence, V'higianu lazman hazeh, brought us to this moment. It's a blessing that we say of deep gratitude for reaching beautiful, important milestones in life that we don't take for granted, that we don't want to take for granted. And by participating, by tasting the sweetness of a new fruit, we allow ourselves to make that blessing again and to appreciate the miracle of our lives, the miracle of our existence, that we can really maximize and live it to the fullest in every moment in the presence of God, in kindness and love. And last but not least, number 10 is to receive an aliyah, to be called up to the Torah on the Shabbat before one's birthday, or if the Torah is read on the day of one's birthday, to be called up to the Torah as well. This may not apply to everyone, but if there is a way that you in your own community, in your own tradition, can participate in a communal reading of your sacred text, whether that's in a church or a mosque or a temple, wherever you find yourself, to try and engage with those texts that ground us in the deepest calling, in the deepest reality that we have. And what a beautiful place to set our foot on for the year to come. I said before that one is supposed to share their hachlata, their resolution for the coming year. And if I'm saying so, then I should do so myself. I was thinking that for this coming year, which is a big year for me, turning 30, I'd like to slow down a little. I think that I've been losing myself a little in the rush and the bustle of the city and the expectations that I think society has for me that I need to conform to. And I want to slow down, and I want to find God in that slowness. There's also something about moving, about making moves, about speed. There's a virtue in Judaism, zrizut, which is alacrity, not being slow. But I think it's a balance, and I think that I'm wanting some of that slowness in my life so that I can really sit and think and put in the adequate time and effort slowly into the research, writing, thinking, producing that I can share with you guys, with this beautiful community that we've created here together. For those that are following closely on the channel, they may know that I'm planning to leave the busyness of the city and head out in a van with my gear, with my equipment, with my books, and to do some thinking and some writing and producing of content from the slowness of nature. And firstly, I'd like to thank a good handful of you who responded to my request and reached out with assistance and guidance, with so much kindness and love and appreciation. So thank you to you. You know who you are. Thank you. And yeah, just to give a bit of an update here, the plan is to head out from New York sometime around the beginning of April. The plans are still quite open and tentative, and to head all the way to the Pacific Ocean, and then from there perhaps go down south, however far the wheels of my bus will take me. If you live along the general trajectory of that route and would like to hang out, I'd love to visit you. I'd love to stop in and get to know each one of you personally, one by one. That would be really delightful. So let me know. There are different ways of reaching me, whether through the Discord or email or Instagram. I'm quite accessible. It would be really nice to get to meet you in person and share your presence. I hope also to be filming from on the road, maybe share a bit about the journey, share some of the interesting people that I meet along the way, people that are living a bit outside the matrix perhaps, and learn some wisdom from friends and strangers as I travel. And yeah, that's a little update for the channel, a little reflection on birthday from within the perspective of Chassidic mysticism, my own tradition. A bit more of a personal and vulnerable video than I usually do. Usually I have, my books and sources that give me that professional distance. This is a bit more raw, and I hope you've appreciated it. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining. And as always, keep seeking. And if you'd like to support the work that we're doing here and help me on my travel, please do consider joining on Patreon. And yeah. Love you. Keep seeking. Just to add one note, the 25th of Adar, which I mentioned earlier as the birthday of the Rebbetzin, the Rebbe's wife, is also the birthday of my younger brother, Mendel. And my younger brother, Mendel, just had a beautiful baby boy together with his beautiful wife, Chaya. And just this past week was the bris, the circumcision of the young child, where he was given his Jewish name, Mordechai Naftali Tzvi. And I would like to dedicate this video to him, to young Tzvi Slavin, that he should grow up to be a Chasid, a pious, seeking Jew, seeking godliness like his father, and like his grandfather, my father. A Yireh Shamayim, someone who has a reverence of God deep in their hearts, and a lamdan, a scholar who imbibes and embodies the wisdom of our tradition that his father will no doubt pass on to him. And he, God willing, will grow up to be a fine young man and pass that on to his children. To little Tzvi Slavin, I love you. And to your dad, Mendel, and mother, Chaya, I love you guys. Mazel tov. And happy birthday, Mendel.